Shalom. Told you I would tell you about some pertinent information for the people who's actually the indigenous people of this land, who's actually the de jure Americans that this document was talking about, and it basically was telling us, first of all, the most highest creator already said that he has given us the dominion. This is not about against that man or this woman, against this or that. It's not being boastful or arrogant. I'm just speaking what is fact, according to what the Most Highest said. And then they have a lot of Israelites, that speaks on the negative side of the scripture, Deuteronomy 28, about the curses. But the Most Highest said in the beginning, if you keep my word, you will be the blessed. If you do not keep my word, you will be the cursed. So, today, he also said, the day that you hear my voice, he'll let you in. Let him in. And then he also said, the day that you hear his voice, he said, if you would humble yourself and pray and seek his face and turn from your evil ways, he would hear from heaven. He would heal your land, his people. So he's waking the people up today to tell, that you don't have to be cursed. Although that is a sign that showed who we were, but we don't confess that we are cursed. We're blessed. He in the word, a lot of people use the word like some Israelites will say, well, the Christians, that's a Christian doctrine. No, the word is a Israelite doctrine. The true word. And his word says, the day that you hear his voice, let him in. He'll heal your land if you turn back to him. And the word is not something that someone just talks about on a certain day. The word is something that you apply to your life that will save lives. So the weapons of our warfare is not carnal. We're not fighting anybody. We're using the word, if a weapon at all, the word is the weapon. The word is going to do the fight. He said, Psalm 91, he says, the truth shall be thy shield and buckler. How is that? Well, the foundation of everything that's created is based on the truth. So the truth must come to your defense. The truth. The truth holds all things together. The truth. And he said, who's the son is set free is free indeed. So no man can hold charge over you or hold any rights over you. Let me give a disclaimer. This video is for educational purposes. I'm not using this video to blame anyone. It is to show my intent to act in good faith. And then since this is once again a targeted individual video, and even if you're not so-called targeted in the way that some targeted individuals are, the Israelite nation is targeted from the standpoint because you're sons and daughters of the Most High. So the enemy, that evil spirit, wants to target you anyway. So from that standpoint, I'm talking to you as well. It says the targeted individual community needs true methods to know how to act and protect themselves with the truthful information that cannot be denied when the truth is judged. No, do your own research. So I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm going to use my own situation to talk through this, but I'm not telling anybody what to do, but just consider, he who has an ear to what the Spirit is saying to the congregation or to the people of the Most Highest, let him hear. This may be, matter of fact, it probably will be more than one video. I am using my situation regarding my right to cash my retirement check that LaSarah said was mine by right, without being subjugated, subrogated, hypothecated, or impersonated, or any other type of form of genocide or any other thing under the color of law in bad faith. I said I asked specific questions when I spoke to the representatives from the Sarah. I asked them if I had sold my soul to receive this safety retirement. They said no. I asked them if I owed them anything for receiving the safety retirement checks. They said no. I asked them if I had stolen anything from them. They said no. I told them that I do not want anything that's not mine by right, and I asked them to give me full disclosure on the record of anything else. They said, no, it sure is about right. It is their obligation. They said it was their obligation to give it to me. Based on when I did work, like I told you before, I've always been a living sentient being, a living man in full life. I've always been that. I'm talking me, the real man. I've always been that. I didn't know anything about legal fictions and all those type of things back then. I didn't know anything about that. But I've always been. I have no control of what others have done in bad faith against me, not knowing what is going on. You know, I also told you that when I did work there, and more likely when I was working, I was targeted even back then. That, you know, I didn't know what was going on, but I didn't have the spirit as far as what I have now through overstanding. So, you know, when I worked, I did a lot of good there. That's the truth. But when I did go through certain situations, because I didn't know what was going on, I didn't know how to handle it. Sometimes I didn't always put my best foot forward, meaning that I kind of had a rebellious spirit against what was happening to me. And in doing that, I was always the best example. So therefore, when I got a chance recently, not that long ago, to talk to those high ups for the Los Angeles County Probation Department, I told them, I said, you know, I thanked them for when I did work there. And I told them, I said, you know, I apologize for not always being the best employee at times. And they said they forgave me. So that's it. Let me see. But that was even prior to me talking to Sarah. I can't talk to a corporation. I talked to the people that was representing Sarah. I'm not gonna call their names. Supervisors that work for Sarah and different things like that. So, from that standpoint, I have every right to cash a check. Now, they told me they were the supervisors. They told me that, yeah, they do work for them. I have no way of knowing if anything is done in bad faith. They say they were operating in good faith. I asked them to give me full disclosure. They told me it's mine by right. They did say that they're that corporate person was their member. However, they said I had the right to receive it as myself. But they did, and then I did let them know that when I do cash it, I was going to cash it as myself in my appellation. That's on their records. And I'm going to show you why I have the right to do that as well. Let's see. I told them I do not want anything that's not mine by right. They already knew that. And also since then, they sent me more checks. So they're right there, you know, that's their recognition and knowing that they accepted what I said. And they honored what they said. They sent it. So anything outside of that, that's the gang stalking program. That had nothing to do with them from that standpoint. Because they did what they said, I'm doing what I said. So there's another element at work. If anything that tries to stop me from receiving my right, it's another element at work. From my point of view. Now, I don't know what's going on behind the scene. I don't work there. I don't know what's going on. That's why I gave them my full disclosure. They said they gave me their full disclosure because when I asked them to give me full disclosure, that's all they told me. So that's all I can go by is what they said. I ain't committed no crimes. Everybody else is still receiving Lacera checks and cashing them. So, and I'm quite sure other people are doing it in their proper capacity. And I'm going to show you why I got the right to do that too. Everything I'm showing you is not nobody giving me a right, but that's by the people that own the corporations. They're showing me, they're basically presenting information, as I told you before, of why I have the right. Not that they're giving it to me, but why I have the right and why you have the right. It's kind of like the story of the Wizard of Oz. Dorothy, when she got hit over the head and went unconscious and woke up in the land of Oz, she went there for a reason. She went through the whole story to find out at the end that she always been home. She always had the power. But she went through all that to save everybody else. So when she found out that she had the power to always go back home because she was already at home, all she had to do was just wake up to who she was. And when she woke up to what she was, the Tin Man said he wanted a brain. He already had a brain, but he thought he needed somebody else to give him one. The Scarecrow was already a real man, but he thought he was a man of straw. The Cowardly Lion already had courage, but he thought he needed to go let somebody else tell him he needed some courage, but he already had it. So through all that process, Dorothy went through all that so they can find out who they were. And then she woke up and said, I'm already home. And then when she got home, all those people was back who they were supposed to be. They were who even Auntie M was back in the picture. According to the story. Also, what's the young man name in the scriptures? What's his name? Anyway, he was like the lost son who found out, because he had kind of wasted everything he had. So he said he'll just go work as a servant. But his dad was so happy to see him, he ran and clothed him, had his calf. That's like the father of heaven, the Most High, and put him back in his position as a son and not as a servant or slave. All right, let me continue, and I'm gonna get on to it. Where I was at. They said, no, it's yours by right, and it's their obligation to give it to me. Because basically when I did work, I was in a plan, what they call E. But that's myself. Not knowing about what they did, or what anybody else was doing. I'm going to show you what they did according to the information that was provided by the Vatican's Pope through his private attorney. By necessity, they had to say this. So they had to tell us what was going on, and then they pointed out in this document exactly who we are. This here is the Vatican's private attorney according to her own document. This is a good book to read, and of course, like any other thing that they print, You have to decipher for yourself and find yourself in it. You know, because they're not you, so they gotta put certain things in there to include themselves. If you hear what I'm saying. I said I plan on cashing each check in my proper persona and capacity, being the living man, uh, by the appellation Negus El Yah, because I believe there are those who has attempted to corrupt even my appellation under the color of law without my permission. I don't know what they've been doing, but those who know the targeted individual program know that these people are always trying to do something to rob and steal from you and deprive you of what is right, of what's yours. And I said without my permission, if they did anything, because I deny it and I do not authorize them to do anything. All of their registrations, everything I've done, I've already discharged everything, because a corporation and the people that work for the corporation cannot decide for you who and what you are. And I'm gonna get there. Once you've acknowledged who and what you claim to be, they can't do anything to try to keep you there according to their. That's further injury. You always have the right to update who and what you are based on information, because the so-called African American, as they have said, has been subjugated so long. It's only natural that you're still in a learning process or a knowing process, but at least know who you're not. That's very important. At least know who you're not. A corporation. You're not a piece of paper. You're not a corporate fiction. You're a living, sentient being, natural man and woman, created by the Most Highest. Living the full life. They also stated, not that they can give you any status, but you already have the status, and I'm going to point that out as well. You already have the status. And they said, basically, the same people that claim to have owned you under the color of law called their corporate citizen, had said that now every so-called African American must be considered in their proper capacity. And that's not saying what they've given you. That's giving orders to their people who work for them, and those people who under the corporations. Let me see. I said, I have not and deny every such claim to being a corporate person or object of the corporation or any other such thing of anybody else. They claim the person on their records or their member. I said, I will show you I have the right to cash checks in the name of the Namdagir they created after the original name my natural mother created for the baby she gave life to. The corporation in which all subdivisions on this organic natural soil on the natural continent in North America's soil. Note, I use information they provide for clarity, explaining who and what they are and what they are subject to, and not what I am subject to, but in fact able to overstand by their own admission, and this is the truth. I said, let's begin with the law of the land, Article 6. Let me go to Article, before I go there, let me go to Article 4 first. Section 1. Full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state, and the Congress may by general law prescribe the manner in which such acts, records, and proceedings shall be proved and the effect thereof. Let's go here. Article 6. All debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. This Constitution and the laws of the United States. See, this Constitution of the law of the land, Constitution, the law of the land, the Constitution for the United States Constitution for the United States of America, is actually a contract that they created, stating their obligations to the actual de jure Americans, which is us. But through the process of subrogation and subjugation and hypothecation and personation, they created a person and a citizen under the corporation without the people knowing it, which is the so-called African American. And and they're going to talk about that as well. So I'm not making anything up. I'm just telling you what's already provided for information. It says all debts contracted engagement entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. This Constitution and all the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. See, that's the original Constitution for the United States. That's the original contract that they made. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or the laws of any other state to the contrary, notwithstanding, the senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by the oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. But no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. See, they tell you everything in plain sight, right? So if you watch a football game, remember Kaepernick and they were all going to make the big fuss about not kneeling for the Constitution. Well, just tell the truth. That's what this was about. They were telling you you don't have to bow to a flag, to a corporation. That's what that was all about. Matter of fact, she also explains that anytime you bow to a corporation knowingly, or a flag knowingly, you're basically submitting yourself under their codes to be their corporate person. This is also information that they provided, not me making it up. This is what they want you to know, so you can know to do better. Don't take my word for it. Research it for yourself. That's what this is all about, informational purposes. It says short definition for Act of 1871. District of Columbia Corporation online. The Acts of 1871 formed a corporation called the United States. The corporation, owned by the foreign interests, moved in and shoved the original Constitution into a dustbin. With the Act of 1871, well, actually, it didn't do that. They just created a cover that people don't know. The original Constitution is still in place. The original Constitution for the Americans is still in place. It said, the corporation, owned by foreign interests, moved in and shoved the original Constitution into a dustbin. With the Act of 1871, the organic Constitution was defaced, in effect vandalized or sabotaged. That's what they put on the internet, so I'm just reading what's on there. When the title was capitalized and the word for was exchanged to of in the title. 1871, February 21st, Congress passes an act to provide a government for the District of Columbia, also known as the Act of 1871. See, this is a corporation. It's not a government either. With no constitutional authority to do so, a corporate government under the color of law created for the District of Columbia a 10-mile square parcel of land. See Acts of the 41st Congress, Section 34, Section 3, Chapter 61 to 62. Also see Clearfield Doctrine, describing the same corporation. Also see their own description, 28 U.S.C. 3002:15, and it states that the United States is a federal corporation under that. Then it says, the true identity of the so-called African American on the organic natural soil, North and South America, California de jure soil. Note, even the Vatican's Pope Francis, private attorney, according to her own words and her own, this is the lady who provided this information. She said for the Pope, for the Vatican, for their Pope in the Vatican. It's authorized for Alfonso V of Portugal to, where was I at? We will begin with two former documents where the Vatican claimed to own the so-called African American. Dumb verses, English, until different. It said English. It said until different. So some people say that the dumb verses is perpetual. That's what they said. But right here it says English, until different, right? So they acknowledge through these documents, they don't claim to own you anymore. Because it says until different. Now this document they created is that different. They say they don't own you anymore. Nobody does. They don't own you in the first place, but they just taking away their claim. So the scripture says who the Son is set free. I'm talking the Most Highest. Not any corporation people, nothing like that. I already said you was free. Now they said by necessity they have to let you know you are free. It says, dumb verses, English, until different, is a papal bull issued on June 18, 1452 by then their Pope Nicholas V. It authorized Alfonso V of Portugal to conquer Saracens and pagans and co-signed them to perpetual servitude. Seste Que Act of 1666. The Vatican refers to the Seste Que Trust Act of 1666, overstanding Seste Que Act 1666, existence of life. London in 1666, during the Black Plague and Great Fires of London, Parliament enacted an act behind closed doors called Seste Que Act, V Act 1666. The act being debated was to subrogate the rights of men and women, meaning all men and women were declared dead, lost at sea, beyond the sea. Back then operating in admiralty law, the law of the sea, so lost at sea. It says the state, London, took custody of everybody and their property in a trust. The state became the trustee, husband, holding all titles to the people and property until the living man comes back to rebellion, to reclaim. Read that again. The state, London, took custody of everybody and their property into a trust. The state became the trustee, husband holding all titles to the people and property until a living man comes back to reclaim those titles. He can also claim damages. So remember, everybody right now in the Israelite community is talking about marriages, and then I basically, because of this information that I've gained, not through arrogance, not through anything like that, but through information. That's why I said the Most Highest is against marriage licenses, because these people claim to own everything under those licenses. They don't leave any room for the Most Highest. And he will not share his authority with anybody. It said when the capital letters, this is kind of different now too, they use other type of forms as well. This is when the capital letters are used anywhere in a name, this always refers to a legal entity, fiction, company, or corporation, no exception, e.g. John Doe, or John spelled naturally, capital J-O-H-N in all caps Doe, are Doe, capital D, lowercase o, E, colon, all capitals, Jane, things of that nature. 1. Sestuke trust, pronounced Sedake, common term in New Zealand and Australia. 2. Strawman, common term in the United States of America or Canada. That's the corporations. These are legal entity fictions created and owned by the corporation called United States, which they describe by their own definition under 28 U.S.C. 302:15, whom created it. It is like owning a share in a stock market. You may own a share, but it's still a share of the stock. Legally. And see, that's another thing. They have a traditional common word or words that is also being construed for that same word to mean something different to the corporation. Let's see. It is like, okay, got there. Legally. It said legally, we are considered to be a fiction. This is the information that they provided. A concept or an idea expressed as a name, a symbol. That legal person has no consciousness. It is a juristic person, ens legis, a name, word written on a piece of paper. This traces back to 1666. London is an independent city-state, just like Vatican is an independent city-state, just like Washington, D.C. is an independent city-state. Not the government. The people are the government. The de jure Americans are the government, both individually and collectively. Because right now, the way it's operating, the corporation are acting in the capacity as a government. So there really isn't, from that standpoint, they're the people. They're telling us this because we, the people, the real people, the